We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara in Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 18a. On the previous summit, the Gemara brought Reb Nechemiah's opinion in the Mishnah. Reb Nechemiah says that any city with 230 people, that is large enough that it can have a Sanhedrin Ketana, that it could have a small Sanhedrin of 23. And the idea is that each judge on that Sanhedrin is like an officer of 10. And so you do 23 times 10, and you have 230. And the Gemara now is bringing a brisa where Rebbe says, how many people does the city need to have? Masayim v'shivim v'shiv. It actually needs to have 277 people. And Rashi explains, Masayim v'shivim v'shiv, 277 people. Masayim u'shloshim kreb Nechemiah. Rebbe's opinion is that you start with 230, like we said, like Reb Nechemiah. But then v'od mem zayin, and then he adds 47. Shem yischalku bezdin yud aleph mezakin v'yachad osir mechayvin v'yachad omer eini yodea. The reason is, let's say this bezdin of 23, let's say they end up having an even vote, 11 say innocent, 11 say guilty, and one of them says I don't know. So the halacha is Yosifu me'elu mem zayin ad shivim. You continue to add on 47 judges until you reach 70. Kedamrinan b'hayu bodkin, like we say in Perek hayu bodkin shemosifin shnayim al hachav gimel, that we add 2 to the 23. Im yizku shneim harei yud gimel mezakin v'yachad osir mechayvin. If those two say innocent, that's 13 against 11. And so then we say zakai, we say innocent, v'im yechayvu, and if they say chayiv, then we're going to say that the person is chayiv, d'ika hatayil l'ra pishnayim, because then you're going to have a majority with 2 extra judges on the side of guilt, and you say guilty. V'im yecholku tzarech od losif shnayim. If again you have an even split, you have to add another 2 judges. V'chein liolam ad sheyushivim l'Rabbi Yehuda v'shivim v'yachad l'Rabbanan. And you do that all the way until you have 70 judges according to Rabbi Yehuda, because that's the size of the great Sanhedrin according to Rabbi Yehuda, and you do until 71 according to the Rabbanan. But the Gemara continues, does Rebbe really say 277? V'atanya, but we learned in another brayso. So Rebbe says, Masayim Shivim Ushmona, that it's actually 278. That's a difference of 1. And the Gemara answers, Lokash, it's not difficult. Ha Rabbi Yehuda, ha Rabbanan. In one case, we're following Rabbi Yehuda, who says 70 judges on the Sanhedrin, and the other one we're following the Rabbanan, like Rashi just said, 71 judges on the Sanhedrin that you're going to add all the way till 71. And that's why there's that extra person in the city. That's why the total is 278 in the later brayso. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, V'samto aleim sorei alofim v'sorei meos, sorei chamishim v'sorei asoros. It says you're going to have officers of the thousands and the hundreds, and officers over 50 and officers over 10. And the Gemara, the Brisa says, the math works out as follows, sorei alofim sheish meos. If you're going to have officers over 1,000, that's 600 officers. The idea is that if there's 600,000 members of Klal Yisrael, so if you have each sar, if you have each officer over 1,000, that's 600. Sarei Meos, the officers over the hundreds, is Sheishas Alofim. There are 6,000 of those. Sarei Chamishim, Shneim Aser Elef. When it comes to the officers over 50, there's going to be 12,000 of those. Sarei Asaros, Sheishas Ribo. And when it comes to the Sarei Asaros, the officers over 10, that's going to be a total of 60,000. Nimsu Dayana Yisrael Shivas Ribo Shmonas Alpayim V'Sheish Meos. It comes out that the total number of judges is 78,600. Hadron Aloch Dinei Mamanis. We will return to you, Perek Dinei Mamanis. This is the end of the first Perek of Mesechet Sanhedrin. If you're enjoying these videos and this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And we will now begin the second Perek of Mesechet Sanhedrin. And the parak begins with the Mishnah, Kohen Gadol. When it comes to a Kohen Gadol, Don V'Donin, so a Kohen Gadol can judge others, and he can be judged. Mayid, he can testify in court, Umidin also, and they can testify against him. Choletz v'chotzin le'ishto, he can do chalitza, and one can do chalitza with his wife. Umiyavmin es ishto, and also one can do yibam with his wife. Aval hu eino miyavim, but he's not able to do yibam, mibnei shu aser ba'almana, because it's forbidden for him to marry an almana. Yibam would involve marrying the widow of his brother. Since a Kohen Gadol cannot marry an almana, he's not able to do yibum. Meis lo meis, let's say one of his relatives dies, Eino yotze achar hamita, he doesn't follow after the mita which holds the body. Ela hein nichsin v'hu nigla, rather they are covered and then he's revealed. What that means is that when they, for example, turn a corner on a different road, then he can go on that road. He shouldn't be on the same road as them. Hein niglin, when they're revealed, v'hu nichse, he should be covered. V'yotze imoin ad pesach sha'ara'ir, he should follow them. He should go out with them all the way to the entrance of the gate of the city. Divri Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Eino yotze min hamikdash, he doesn't leave the Beis Hamikdash, mishum shenemar, because it says in the pasuk min hamikdash lo yetze, that he should not leave the Beis Hamikdash. And Rashi explains, Kohen Gadol eno yotze achar hamita, the Kohen Gadol doesn't follow the mita with the mace. Dil ma'asa leminga, because we're afraid maybe he'll end up touching it. V'hainu da'azer kro, min ha'mikdash lo yetze. And that's what it means when the pasuk says he doesn't leave the mikdash. It means miktushaso lo yetze. He doesn't leave his holiness. Kolomer yisrachik min hakiyor shelo yavu lidei tumah. It means to say he has to distance himself from that tumah. V'haikra b'Kohen Gadol onen ksiv. Now this pasuk is talking about a Kohen Gadol who is an onen. T'chsiv le'el minei lo avivu l'imo lo yitam. It says, it talks about the fact that he shouldn't become tummy to his father and his mother. We're talking about a Kohen Gadol who has lost a relative, which has made him an onen. Hey nichsen v'hu nigla, he is covered and they're revealed, which means kishen yotzen mimavoy zeh, when they leave this alleyway, v'nichnasen lamavoy acher, and they go to another alley, v'nichsen mimavoy harisha, now they are covered, so to speak, they're hidden from that first alley. She'eno roa osan, when he can't see them. Hu nigla, so then he can reveal himself. V'nichnas lamavoy harisha, he can now go into that first alley. V'hei nichsen mimavoy hasheni, and when they're covered from the second mavoy, v'hu nigla v'nichnas lasocho, he can be revealed and enter it. Rabbi Yehuda dorish min hamikdash dafka. Rabbi Yehuda, he said, Eino yotze min hamikdash, that the Kohen Gadol can't leave the mikdash, because he understands the pasuk when it says umin hamikdash lo yetze. He understands that it means exactly that he can't leave the Beis Hamikdash, not that he just can't leave his state of kedusha. And the Mishnah continues, when he's consoling others, derech kol ha'am, over in bazeh arzeh, the entire nation, all of the people, they go one after the other in order to comfort the mourners. V'hamemuna mimatzo beino levein ha'am, and the memuna, which is the skan Kohen Gadol, he stands in a way where the Kohen Gadol is between the skan Kohen Gadol and the people. And Rashi explains, Zuchishu Menachem, and when he consoles the mourners, Beshura, this is when they're consoled standing in a row, Kishachozr Mikvores Hameis, this is when they return from burying the dead, She'ein Shalo, this is talking about someone who died who's not related to the Kohen Gadol. So Derech Kalam, over in Zach, Arzeu, Menachmen, Esavel, all of the people, they line up one after the other to console the mourner. She'omed B'ma'amado, the mourner is standing, that's called the Maimid. V'hamemuna, which is the Skan HaKohanim, that Skan of the Kohen, Mimatzu LeKohen Gadol, Beino Levein Ha'am. So he places the Kohen Gadol between himself and the people. Shehamemuna biyamino means to say the memuna, this Skan HaKohanim, is standing at the right. V'chol ha'am b'smolo, and everybody else is at the left. V'hu be'emsa, and the Kohen Gadol, he stands in the middle. And the Mishnah continues, Zechashu misnachem me'acherim, when he's being consoled by others, Kol ha'am omrim lo, all of the people, they say to him, Anu kaparoscha, we are your atonement. V'hu omer lahen, and he says to them, Tizborchu min hashamayim, you should be blessed from heaven. And Rashi explains, Anu kaparoscha, we are your atonement. Bonu tischaper ata, through us you should have an atonement. V'anachnu tachtecha, we should be in your place. L'chol haroi lavo alech, in terms of everything that was fit to happen to you. And the Mishnah continues, so when they comfort him, this is with the first meal after they bury his relative, all the people, they recline on the ground, and he sits on the bench. And Rashi explains, like we've established by an ovel, by a mourner, that first meal he doesn't eat from his own food, rather it's provided for him. And again, the people are misuben ala oretz, they recline on the ground, hein mitzirnu misablin al tzaro, they have to put themselves in pain and mourning over his pain, and he reclines in a respectful manner on the bench. And the Mishnah continues, Hamelech, when it comes to a king, lo don v'lo don, so he doesn't judge others, and they don't judge him. Lo me'id v'lo me'id, so he doesn't testify against others, and they don't testify against him. Lo choletz v'lo chotzen le'ishto, there's no chalitza, he doesn't do chalitza, and they don't do chalitza with his wife. And lo miyavim, he doesn't do yibum, v'lo miyavim le'ishto, and they don't do yibum with his wife. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yehuda says, if he wants to do chalitza or a yibum, zachar latov, then that should be mentioned as a good thing. Amrulo, they said to him, Ein shomen lo, we don't listen to him in this situation. Vein nosen al manuso, we don't marry his widow. Rabbi Yehuda says, Nose hamelech al manuso shal melech, a king can marry the widow of another king. Shekein matzinu b'David shenas al manuso shal Shaul, because we find by David that he married the almana of Shaul. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, that I've given you the wives of your master. And the Gemara says, Kohen Gadol done. It says that a Kohen Gadol is able to judge others. He can be a judge. The Gemara says, Pshita, well, isn't that obvious? Why shouldn't that be the case? And the Gemara says, done in also it's trichalei. The Chiddush is that they can judge him. But the Gemara says, Hanami Pshita, but that's also obvious. Ilo daininon lei, iu hechidayin. If they're not able to judge him, how can he be a judge? Vaksib, but isn't it written in the Pasuk? Hiskosheshu v'koshu, gather yourselves together, gather yourselves. V'yamar Reish Lakish, and Reish Lakish says, kashot atzmecha, v'yachar kach kashot acherim. First you have to adorn yourself, and then you can adorn others. Meaning to say, obviously a person cannot be a judge if he himself is not able to be judged. And so the Gemara says, again, we're back to the question, isn't it obvious that a Kohen Gadol is able to judge and able to be judged? And so the Gemara says, Ella rather, Aidi de kaboy lemisni melech lo don v'lo don. And also, since the Mishnah is going to say that a king doesn't judge and he is not judged, so Tananami, Kohen Gadol, so we say by Kohen Gadol as well, don v'don, and that he can judge and he can be judged, even though that is obvious, but we say that to align the Mishnah with what it is going to say by a melech. And the Gemara continues with another answer, if you want, I could say another answer. HaKamash Malon, what the Mishnah is teaching us when it says a Kohen Gadol is able to judge and be judged, Kiritani, it's like we learned in the following Brisa. Kohen Gadol shaharag es hanefesh b'meizid nerag. If a Kohen Gadol kills somebody on purpose, he is killed. B'shoging, and if he kills by mistake, a gola, so then he's going to go to exile just like any other person. V'over al aseh v'alos aseh, he transgresses an aseh and a los aseh like anybody else. V'areu kehedyot l'chol devarav, he's considered like a regular person in all of these matters. And so the Gemara says, b'meizid nerag, it says if he kills on purpose, he is killed. The Gemara says, pshita, well, that's obvious. And so the Gemara explains, b'shogeg golet strichale. The chiddush of the brisa is that if he kills by mistake, he goes to golus. The Gemara says, hanami pshita, well, isn't that obvious also? The Gemara says, not necessarily, it's necessary. Sal gadai dechamina, because one might have thought, hoel uchsiv, since it's written in the pasuk, vayeshev boad mos hakohen hagadol, when somebody goes to golus because he kills by mistake, he has to stay there until the kohen gadol dies. And here we're talking about a kohen gadol going to golus. So Amos, so I might have said, called the islay takanta b'chazara ligli, anybody who's able to return, who's able to get out of golus, he goes to golus. But a kohen gadol, the lesle takanta b'chazara, kohen gadol, who doesn't have any solution to be able to return, because again, it's only by a regular individual is able to get out of golus when the kohen gadol dies. That would not apply to the kohen gadol himself. So lo ligli, so I might think that such a person should not go to exile. That's not, as we learned in a Mishnah. And so the point over here is that is the chiddush. One might have thought that a kohen gadol in a situation where he kills by mistake, he doesn't go to golus. That's what we're teaching, that he's treated like everybody else. He does go to golus. And Rashi explains, donin oso it's trichalei. At first the Gemara said the chiddush of the Mishnah is that we can judge the kohen gadol. One might have thought that it's like a zilzal, it's disgraceful that he should have to come in front of the court. The over al asay, then it said that kohen gadol, like anybody else, transgresses an asay and a los asay, like haman parich lo sagi de lo over. The Gemara later on is going to ask, what does that mean? It means to say that he has to be over an asay. It's inevitable that a kohen gadol is going to transgress a mitzvah asay. The Gemara will discuss. V'areu kehedyot, he's like a regular person. L'kamei mesuk mashaper. The Gemara will explain exactly what this means later on, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis.